Well, good morning. It's 7:15. It's Thursday. That means it's time for Lifebuilders. I'm excited to be here this morning. I'm always excited to be here. Well, I take that back. Sometimes I like sleep too. But hey, it's 7:15. It's Thursday morning. This is Lifebuilders, and as I was looking this morning and reading this morning, I came across this passage. It's in Luke chapter 14. And beginning in verse 2, the Bible says, "And behold, there was a certain man before him which had the dropsy. And Jesus answering spake unto the lawyers and Pharisees, saying, Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath day? And they held their peace, and he took him and healed him and let him go. And answered them, saying, Which of you shall have an ass or an ox fallen into a pit, and will not straightway pull him out on the Sabbath day? And they could not answer him again to these things." So, let's set the tone. We know it's the Sabbath day. Jesus says, the Bible says it's the Sabbath day. So we know that it's the Sabbath day. It was against Jewish custom for them to do anything on the Sabbath day. And Jesus had this habit of just healing people on the Sabbath day, and it infuriated the Pharisees. Just got them so angry. And, I guess my thought is this. So, it came to pass as he went into the house of one of the chief Pharisees to eat bread on the Sabbath day that they watched him. And behold, there was a certain man before him which had the dropsy. Well, Jesus didn't engineer this, okay? He's on his way to the house of a Pharisee. He's going to have dinner with this Pharisee. He's going to have a meal with this Pharisee. It's the Sabbath day. As he approaches the home of the Pharisee, here is this man with dropsy. Okay? Jesus didn't go out looking for him. Jesus didn't try and find him. He was just there. So Jesus takes the opportunity, he stops, he looks at the man with the dropsy, he says to the Pharisees, "Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath day?" Okay. And then after the Pharisees don't say anything, Jesus takes the man, heals the man, and lets him go. And then he says to the Pharisees, "Hey, if you've got an ox or an ass that's fallen in a ditch, and it's the Sabbath day, you're going to get him out. You're going to get him out." The other day, I ran into a guy who was having car trouble. And it was an ugly situation. I stopped what I was doing. I drove over to where the man's car was. And I looked at the car and I began to help the man with the car. I just took the opportunity to be a blessing. Here's the thing. Jesus, in our text, took the opportunity to be a blessing. Let me give you human nature here. Human nature is, if God presents us with the opportunity, and we don't take advantage of the opportunity that God presents us with, then we have missed not only an opportunity to be a blessing, but we don't know what the flip side of that is. Okay, we don't know the blessings that God would choose to give us because we choose to be a blessing. We don't know if we don't take the opportunity to be a help and a blessing, then do we lose the opportunity to witness, to share Christ? If we don't take the opportunities that God presents us with to be a help, to be a blessing, do we then forfeit the right, or the privilege rather, of making an impact for Jesus Christ? It's unfortunate when we when we pass by the opportunities that God gives us to be a help and a blessing, to be a witness for Him, to be a testimony for Him, to be a positive influence. You and I both know, we all know, The world has enough negative influences. It needs some positive influences. Oh, but preacher, it would have been convenient. It was so inconvenient, I couldn't do it at the time. Well, I have found that if I'm presented with an opportunity to be a blessing and I don't do it right then, it generally doesn't happen. Frequently, somebody will say, preacher, would you pray? I'll get a text message. I'll get a phone call. I've got this situation. Would you pray? I stop what I'm doing right there and I pray as I have been asked to pray. The reason I do that is because if I don't do it right then, I'm going to get on with the next task in my day, or I'm going to go back to doing what I was doing, and I am never going to remember to pray. It's going to go out of my brain, done, gone, out of here. Okay? So if I don't do it right when I'm asked to do it, then it doesn't get done. And the truth of the matter is the same thing often happens for our opportunities to be a help, a blessing. R.B. Willett tells the story about how when he was younger and he was out with his dad, who was also a pastor of a church, a man came to R.B. Willett's dad and said, Pastor, I'm having a great financial need. Here's what it is. Would you pray for me? And Pastor Willett said, I certainly will. And he bowed his head. He prayed with the man right there. And then he took his wallet out and he gave the man some money to help with that financial need that the man had just presented. And young R.B. Willett said, Daddy, why did you do that? And he said, because if I didn't do it now, I would never get the opportunity to be a help. I'd never get the opportunity to do it. And that same thing is true in our lives. When Jesus was not looking for this man. Jesus did not try and search out people on his way to the Pharisee's house. This man was right there. He's in the company of the Pharisees. He stops. The man's got dropsy, and he took the man, he healed the man, and he let him go. That's what the Bible says. The Pharisees, every time Jesus did this kind of thing on the Sabbath day, the Pharisees pitched a hissy fit. They just got upset. You can't do that. That's work on the Sabbath day. Thus, the question of Jesus: if you had an ox that was falling into a ditch on the Sabbath, wouldn't you pull him out? And of course, the answer to that is yes. It didn't matter what the in crowd thought. It didn't matter what the religious people thought. It mattered that here was an opportunity to do right for somebody who had a need, and Jesus took that opportunity to do right no matter what anybody else said. Now, if Jesus is our example, then when we have the opportunity to do right, when we have the opportunity to help, when we have the opportunity to be a blessing, then we ought to take those opportunities. We ought to take the opportunities we have to witness. We ought to take the opportunities we have to influence. We ought to take the opportunities we have to be a blessing. We ought to take the opportunities that we have to open our mouths regarding what God has done for us. We ought to take the opportunities that God lays at our feet. It's not rocket science. You understand, if God didn't have a purpose for you and I, the moment we got saved, we could go right up into heaven. Okay? But we're here, and we're here for a reason. And one of those reasons is God will give us opportunities to do right. Shouldn't we take the opportunities? By the way, a great man of God, Pastor John Morgan, used to say this. He used to say, the more right I do, the more opportunity I give God to bless my life. So if I take the opportunities that God gives me to do right, I am in the same process, I'm giving God opportunities to bless my life. And you know what? God will take those opportunities. He did take the opportunities. He healed this man with dropsy when he had the opportunity. Walking along the road, here's blind Bartimaeus. He took the opportunity. Okay? The woman with an issue of blood came up behind him. He stopped. He took the opportunity. The woman at the well, he's sitting there. She comes to draw water. Okay? He took the opportunity. Jesus Christ was an opportunist. If we're to be like Christ in that regard, we need to be an opportunist. We need to be an opportunist the same way he was. We need to be an opportunist in helping others. We need to be an opportunist in being a blessing. We need to be an opportunist in sharing the gospel. We need to be an opportunist in setting an example. We need to take the opportunity that God gives us in all of these areas. What other people say doesn't much matter, okay? Because our actions will ultimately speak louder than our words. We should not forego opportunities. God lays them in our paths. We can help. We can be an impact and influence. We can be a blessing. We can share the gospel. We can uplift, encourage, build somebody who is in desperate need. Why? Because we have the opportunity. But if we don't take those opportunities when they're presented, they become opportunities lost, and we never get that chance again. Why would we not take the opportunities that God gives us? It's what Jesus did. It's what we should do too. Just a thought, just another Life Builders moment. I hope you have a great day on purpose. Thank you for watching.